Thanks for listening to Kerry Lutz's Financial Survival Network, your solution to today's trying times. For the latest, go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Financial Survival Network, now more than ever.
Welcome. You are listening to the Financial Survival Network. I'm Kerry Lutz. It's July 20th, 2021, and I got that right. Try saying that 3 times over real fast. It's a tongue twister. But, hey, markets go on. The world goes on. We have the Dow slammed yesterday. The indices slammed to support, mind you. And then an amazing thing happens. The next day, almost all gains are, all losses are erased. And, I think what happened yesterday is that the plunge protection team took a sick day. And of course, the one day they take off is the day when everything goes to hell in a handbasket. But did it really? No one could be too surprised about any market movements now, volatility for sure. But our good friend is with us, Todd Bubba Horwitz, and you find him at bubbatrading.com. So, Todd, you're a master trader. What the heck happened yesterday, and what the heck's going on today?
Hi, Kerry. Well, listen, first of all, we're dead in the middle of the summer, which is always a very brutal time in general. Many traders take off the summer, but you've got a market that's really stuck in what we call wide sweeping consolidation. And you tie that together with markets that are lacking some liquidity on light volume, and you get a little bit of a sell-off and it'll accelerate. But if you notice, and if you look at any chart, all 4 major indices, other than the Russell, went right down to support. And now they bounced late yesterday and now are bouncing obviously up huge today. As you said, erasing most of the gains. The Russell is still in trouble, but the others have actually, again, they're just back on track, and they're going to probably push the upper end and see if they can break to the upside this time.
Yeah, it's interesting. We've had really puny volume. Going back months already, even before the market was trading in the summer doldrums, before the summer doldrums even came upon us here. And yesterday, though, we did have a big volume day. The spiders, S&P 500 spiders traded 147 million shares. And you got to take a little notice and wonder if this was one of those distribution days that leads to perhaps a down market, a bear market in the offing.
Well, listen, there's no question we're going to get a bear market at some point. It's not a question of if, it's obviously a question of when. And certainly the light volume is a warning sign that we've been seeing. I mean, the slow grind higher. If you notice, if you look at any chart, when we go up, we crawl up and they get rocketed on the downside, which is typical. But this is more than usual. I mean, if you look at the warning signs that are out there, the potential of another shutdown, which would be the dumbest thing you could ever see. But that this administration has no idea what's going on anyways, along with a Fed that has no idea. And you start seeing some things like the price of lumber. Lumber was making new highs just a couple of months ago, and it's down 75%. Copper was pushing new highs, and copper is down almost 20%. So suddenly, we all ignore those potential warning signs, but there they are. And look, I'm not telling anybody to get out. I'm still basically fully loaded and long, because again, as long as the Fed is going to be ignorant and continue to keep these rates at stupid rates, the market's going to go higher because there's no place else to go. They forced the entire investment community into the stock market.
Yeah, and as long as the Fed is there to just monetize all new debt, to just buy up $120 billion a year, buy up corporate debt, anything else, then there's nothing to be gained going into bonds because the rates are negative. And that's another thing. Did you see the 10-year, what that eroded to? It looks like we're going back under 1% again, and that is a real bad sign for the real economy when you see rates going below 1%.
It's a brutal sign. But again, listen, we've got a Fed that are a bunch of, They might have been, Jerome Powell, I thought he was the right guy for the job, but it turns out when you become a president of the Fed or you become a Fed member, you immediately become a moron. And you stop thinking about what you did to make all your money because you don't care. And now you've got so many things that are concerning the lack of true free markets in interest rates. The markets could stand and could tolerate higher rates. I don't care if the stock market goes down or not. I mean, we're penalizing the elderly with what's going on because, again, the lack of the markets being free. Because if you go to some third-party lenders, some of the peer-to-peer and others, their rates are 6, 7, 8%, and they're getting so much business they don't know what to do with it all. So the markets can certainly tolerate a higher interest rate, but again, when you prevent and you try to push this agenda, okay, which has become, I've never liked the Fed, but they're now even more political than ever. And when you're using models that are probably 100 years old from the 100 and what is it, 100 and how many years have we been on? 108, okay, for the Federal Reserve. So I mean, they're still using models from when they started, basically. I mean, take a look at the cars. The Model T came out the same year the Fed was born. Look at cars and look at the Fed. They're still doing the same stupid thing.
Yeah, that's a great point you raise. And the rest of the world's driving around in Teslas, and the Fed is still getting up in the morning, cranking the crank to start up that creaky, cringy Model T that's been fit for the junkyard for a century already.
Of course, they do have an agenda. I personally believe they have an agenda for all this, and that is, Janet Yellen met with some people yesterday about, creating the digital currency, which I've been talking about for about 2 years, because then they can mask and hide everything, and they're not responsible now. But if they digitize, then there's no accounting or no tracking the cash either. So suddenly you can print even more money. With the party that's in power now, hell, they want $3.5 trillion isn't enough for them.
Infinite is not enough. They would make infinity. They'd make an infinity pool run dry.
There's Buzz Lightyear when you need them.
It's just shocking, and I never. We're experiencing the joys of modern monetary theory firsthand, and all of the dislocations you're talking about, like copper, like lumber. Now, lumber, had a number of reasons why it went up, partly pandemic related and partly supply related. And also because people were staying home saying, that extension we were going to build on our house, now's a great time because we could really use it, because I'd like to be on this end of the house and I'd like you to be on the other end of the house, except the house needs to be a little wider for that to really work out. And offices and stuff like that. You and I have been working out of our home offices for years and years already. Nothing new to us. In fact, the people who were working out of their homes, like you and I, were probably the least affected by the pandemic of anybody out there, Yeah,
I mean, other than the inability to go certain places, I mean, from a standpoint, I'm always in quarantine.
Yeah, exactly. So funny. So repo crisis, what is going on there? They've run out of collateral. Everybody is swimming in currency units. There's like no need for the repo market now.
No, listen, this is, again, a mixed up Fed that has no idea. But again, they do have really an idea because, there's another agenda on the table here, which is the universal income. Nobody talks about it out loud, but, that's a real possibility. And the deeper a hole we dig, and especially if we get another shutdown, that would actually set the table for that. What I think the Fed and the government is missing is, many countries around the globe have issued a 100-year bond, okay, at 2% or whatever. Why not issue a 100-year bond? I mean, it doesn't make sense. You want to finance this massive amounts of debt, then create a 100-year bond. People will buy it. You can force China to buy it. They're stuck. Where are they going to go?
Why not a millennial bond? Like a 1,000-year bond, because it's never going to get paid off anyway, right?
Well, again, it'll get paid off with lesser dollars, right? Yeah. I mean, whatever you're making today, okay, your expenses are much higher than the increase you've made in salary.
Very, very true. And that's the thing, transitory inflation. Now, that's a focus group tested term if there ever was one. And I can only imagine the focus group they had come in, because the average person doesn't know what transitory means. And now they've switched to temporary because the buzzword lost its power. So temporary inflation. Well, you know what? Life is temporary. Empires are temporary. Everything in life is temporary. And I like to say the best things in life are transitory. So, what do they think who do they think they're fooling here?
Well, obviously they're fooling a lot of people because they continue to beat the no inflation drum, and they did go to transitory and then to temporary, which to me says, now again, if the market stays strong, I think you'll hear some scuttlebutt in Jackson Hole, Wyoming in August, at the next big meeting, that there may be some tapering talk, sooner taper talk. But again, that is their way. And I think what the Fed has done over the last years, if you've been watching, is they've gone into let's test the waters. Let's send this guy out and say this and see how the markets react. And let's send this one out and say that. And I think this is their way of kind of testing, the waters to see where they're going, and do they have a chance? Will they be able to get away with trying to hike rates a little bit here? And I think that's what they're looking at. And so that's just in my opinion, their way of sneakily trying to get a feel or take an opinion poll based on what the rates are.
Well, every time they try to raise the rates, Todd, the market has a conniption fit.
No kidding.
And how is it going to be different the next time when they jack it up 5 basis points on the Fed funds rate? And they're a tizzy.
They're just listen. The bottom line is they are full of crap, and they're going to continue with this ridiculous policy, just like the administration has this policy of just spending and shutting down. And it'll just eventually will end poorly. It's always, listen, it always ends bad. Okay, that we know. Okay, it's never once ended well. Anytime there's government or Federal Reserve intervention in markets, it never bodes well for the common man, for the middle class, the rich, the wealthy, the upper 0.5%, whatever. They get loaded up, and the average guy in the street gets hammered as usual. And this is the same that's going to happen this time. And these markets will crack at some point. Now, again, I'm a believer long term, but there's going to be a pretty massive solve at some point.
Yeah, it ain't going to end pretty. And as usual, the middle class, the lower earners are going to get left holding the bag, and they won't even know what hit them. They won't even understand. It'll be a failure of capitalism. That's what it'll be blamed on, right?
And of course, what else? I mean, look, the whole agenda is to create socialism. And, I think what we should do is we should take the Marxist Americans that are so much believers there and switch them for a month with the Cubans who want to have freedom. Okay, let's see how they like it under that regime. Okay.
I've been to Cuba twice.
Mm-hmm.
Let me tell you, nothing in that entire country works properly. Nothing works. Everything's broken. It reminds me of Italy in the 70s. You pick up a phone and you wait 15 minutes for a dial tone. They just got cell phones in Cuba like 6-7 years ago. We've had them for 30 years. And, you got a bunch of clunkers from the 50s where they've kept them going with chewing gum and bobby pins and Russian 2-cylinder diesel engines. It's so polluted there. Let those environmentalists go take a trip to Cuba. All right. You choke on the diesel fumes. It is a great place. Don't get me wrong. I love the people, but man, they are, they're like a battered spouse who knew they should have left 10 years ago and is just waiting for the hammer to really come down one last time. Right.
Don't just survive, thrive. The Financial Survival Network.
Today's show is brought to you by Mistango River Resources. Their flagship projects are located in Kirkland Lake, an established gold camp that has historically produced over 70 million ounces of gold. The Kirkland West project is a high-grade gold project beside Kirkland Lake Gold's world-class Macassa gold mine, one of the highest-grade mines in the world. The Umeja project is an advanced stage project with 600,000 plus ounces of gold along the Cadillac Break, 25 kilometers kilometers east of Mikasa. Their projects have the potential to transform into another world-class mining camp in the Kirkland Lake District. Make sure you go over to Mistango.com. That's Mistango.com. Take a look and sign up for notifications. Stock is traded on the Canadian Stock Exchange, ticker symbol MIS. For more information and to sign up for notifications, go to Mistango.com.
This is the Financial Survival Network, the information you need to thrive now more than ever.
100%. Look, at the end of the day, everybody ignores the very simple facts that are right in front of us and the environment being created. We could end up, we're right now slowly giving away our freedoms, right? Because you've got Facebook, which censors commentary, and you've given control of the oil markets to the criminals from OPEC, and you've given all the power back to China. Okay. And now who are we? We're just another country. And of course, now you've got the very real possibility that we could someday end up like Venezuela. At one time, Venezuela was the richest country in the world. Okay. So look, this whole setup of what we're trying to do is ridiculous. And this green environment, listen, I'm a big fan of green, but not at a price that is unpayable. And they're trying to do it at an unpayable price. If you look at the biggest polluters in the world, first of all, we are the cleanest in the world, okay, right now, and we continue to get better every year. Second of all, China and India, they're going to use coal forever, okay? They're never going to stop, and they're never going to stop polluting. Now, we're a pimple on their ass and size-wise, okay? So what are we going to do? So we're going to reinvent everything, put everybody out of work, okay, with no money, and think that we're going to turn things around. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, well, we've seen this before. So what's happening here with precious metals? They've been pretty messed up lately too.
Well, I think gold and silver and platinum are all in downtrends. Okay, now they'll reverse. Here's my right now, full disclosure. I'm short gold, I'm short silver, and I'm short platinum on the trading screens. However, I do buy physical on a regular basis, which again, I put that in the drawer. My kids will sell it when I die. I'll never sell it. But right now the metals look pretty weak and pretty bad, and especially silver, which really got creaked yesterday and is down again today. Now eventually they'll have a rally, but for now, I think they're probably going lower. And gold's been unable to break above a level, and it continues to be weak. So every rally fails, and I would suspect that that's going to be the case until it's not.
All right. And what about our kleptocurrencies here?
Well, listen, I'm still a fan. I mean, I'm not surprised that they're getting hammered. I mean, Bitcoin's under 30,000, which is, it's a wild market. It's the Wild West. They've lost a lot of market cap. I mean, if you want to put it in perspective, Apple has a bigger market cap than the entire cryptocurrency world. Okay. So, but overall, I think it's going to be a real currency. I think it's the currency of the libertarian. And I think that it's going to be a great field eventually. The problem is, of course, like everything else, we get too many scammers involved in some, I don't know how many, 10,000 and something coins now. I mean, they keep adding because you've got guys who come up with these units, 10,972. So, but I'm a big fan of Bitcoin, Ethereum. And, listen, what I tell everybody is very simple. Okay. You can get involved, but the money that you invest, make sure you are prepared that money could go to zero. Okay. You're not putting the rent or the car money in there. You're simply taking some money that if you lose it, it won't be the end of the world.
Hey, it'd be a great fund to invest in cryptos, your kid's college fund.
I don't disagree with that. I mean, unfortunately, I've already paid for college, okay, for two. But yeah, I think that, again, you take money that if it doesn't work out, that you won't miss. It's like going to Vegas for a couple of weekends. I mean, you have to take money that you're not going to sweat over because, in markets in general, if you're sweating over them, you've got problems. And certainly in the crypto world, which, listen, Bitcoin was just almost 70,000. Now it's back under 30. I mean, and it'll probably go back to 70 or 80 or 90, and it may go back to 10 before we know it. Who knows? I mean, eventually, as I said, I believe in them. I think they're good, but I would not put more in than I could afford to lose. And that's my position, is if it goes to zero tomorrow, I'm not going to lose any sleep over it.
Exactly. 5%, you spend 5% of your income at Starbucks.
Right.
So put 5% in. No, I've been very bearish on Bitcoin since it hit 65.5. I knew it was headed for a crash because the news cycle turned against it. And when you see the news cycle turn on cryptos, you got to get out because it will take them down, because all they do, cryptos, is trade on emotion. There's no fundamental picture there. Maybe Dogecoin has fundamentals that we're all unaware of. Whatever Elon Musk's meds are for the day, that's going to determine where Dogecoin goes. But seriousness, for Bitcoin, it would not surprise me at all to see it go down under 10,000 here, right back to close to where it started. But it will end on a higher low from where it started, because that's what it's been doing the past 7 crashes, all higher lows.
Listen, I agree with you. Look, I got news for you. Okay. And here's my number one tip. One of the smartest guys in the world, like him or not, I mean, I don't particularly care for him, but Jack Dorsey, Twitter and Square is heavily involved in cryptocurrency. And, that tells me that they believe, the money believes these products are real, and they're investing in it. And they don't tend to throw their money away. Okay. Yeah. So I would say, again, you've got to be patient, and it's got to be, as you said, 5% or whatever the number is that you're going to be comfortable with. But at the end of the day, I believe you're correct. They may go down lower, but eventually I think they go much higher. And I think they're a real currency because every battle that the central banks around the world have tried to fight against them, they've ended up losing, and the currencies continue to thrive. And I think that's going to be the longer term case here. And again, I would continue to, don't go to Starbucks 7 times, they go 4, and take those 3 times and start investing in cryptos.
Yeah, I'm buying on the down. I'm averaging down every month. We planned it that way. I'm not putting a lot of money in. I have an auto purchase program of 5 different cryptos on Coinbase. Twice a month, it buys a little bit of everything. And I do believe that Ethereum is going to overtake Bitcoin, maybe not in terms of price per coin, but in terms of appreciation, in terms of utility and everything else. Bitcoin, it's going to be like the stock market. You have a crash, and then a new bellwether stock emerges. Probably now the bellwether is Tesla. You could make that argument, right?
You could. I mean, Tesla and I never got along. I mean, it's a great car. I just never saw it. And of course, I got caught short more often than not, and I basically don't trade it anymore. But, listen, I think it's a great automobile, and I think the technology is phenomenal. And, listen, I'm not going to say that it can't be. I mean, certainly. But they don't quite make enough money to match their valuations, but, they could. And, listen, Amazon at one time didn't make enough money either. So I'm not against it. I just, to me, it leaves a bad taste in my mouth, Tesla, but I do love the car.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is the future, electric vehicles, because the powers that be have anointed it so.
Agreed.
And it is, at least in the West, it is the best EV. And the other interesting thing, Todd, is it's the first new industrial company in the United States since everything was outsourced in the 90s. First industrial company. Now, granted, they're building factories overseas. Berlin, Shanghai's producing high quality vehicles, but the first industrial company in the United States, major industrial company in a generation, that's a big deal in itself. And the fact that they've gotten this far tells you all you need to know. So, but cryptocurrencies, though, asset class, not really currencies yet. You're not walking into Starbucks buying a latte with your digital wallet yet. You theoretically can do it through some different platforms. Why you would want to makes no sense. But I figure one day I'm going to go in there when I have a really good gain on cryptos that day, and I make like a couple $1,000 maybe, which would be ridiculous gain for doing absolutely nothing. And I will pull out my digital wallet and buy everybody in Starbucks a latte on me.
Love it.
One day, when that day comes, right?
Won't be long. It'll be here before you know it. It'll be here.
Yeah. So cryptos long term, it's just like gold and silver, long term and platinum. Long term, yes. Physical, yes. But there could be lots of crashes along the way, and there will be. It's just wired into the DNA of cryptos. Any other investment class that you're looking closely at now that all of you should be looking at?
Well, I mean, no, I don't think there's, listen, I think you kind of peak just about everywhere. I mean, you certainly can't look into real estate, in my opinion. I mean, I don't know how much farther how much wackier that can get. I mean, equities are always my place to go, but I'm always hedged against them. So I don't have an enormous amount of risk. And of course, there is no greater gain over history than equities. But I think here, you're looking to pick some spots. And, I think that the place that I would be taking some shots in right now is in pot. Pot stocks, they will fly and get high when they finally get federal approval. Now, we saw an interesting thing happen last week. Chuck Schumer made a big speech and they were going to legalize it, and all the marijuana stocks got creamed. I would suggest that if you have some risk tolerance, I would look at some of the pot stocks because, again, they're all pretty depressed in value. And if they get federal legalization, which is a problem, obviously, but if they get it, those things are going to fly. Okay. And to me, it's almost a no-brainer. You can see, like a Curl F, which is the retail version. I mean, those guys can't deposit. They got to work in cash. So it's a much tougher business. You legalize it. The government gets to tax it, which is good for the debt. Okay. And companies get the bank. Everybody benefits. So why it's not legal, I have no idea. But that would be the premise that I would invest in those is that I was going to see federal legalization in marijuana.
Yeah, I thought it was going to happen. The last administration, they don't even need to legalize it. All they have to do is make it, take it off of Schedule A or Schedule A.
But I don't know the exact law, but I know that, right now they have to work in cash, which is never a good situation. And of course, what they're really doing as well is they're holding money back from banks. And listen, not that I'm a fan of banks, and I'm not, but it does make the order and the money flow, and you get the velocity of money. And now you got all this cash sitting somewhere, that is just gaining dust, and they've got to continue to work that way, which is a problem.
Yeah. It's Schedule 1. I take it back. And all the DEA has to do, or whomever, I think it's the DEA that's responsible for it, is just to have an administrative proceeding and take it off the schedules altogether. And that's the end of it. I mean, it's up there with heroin, LSD, and methamphetamine, really dangerous drugs, cocaine, all these things. So I'm with you. It's so antiquated, archaic, and we know what happens to the rule of law when the majority of people start ignoring it, which is why the country's in a lot of bad positions in a lot of areas because of prohibitions. Prohibitions never work.
Right.
And I'm just waiting for when they make Bitcoin a Schedule 1 substance. And possession with intent to distribute Bitcoin will get you 5 to 10 in the slammer, right?
Now, listen, you never know what they're going to try, but they've tried just about everything so far, and it has not worked. So, well, end of the day, it will. There are so many problems that it's hard to even talk about them.
Yep, agreed. Hey, well, one problem you'll never have is when you go to bubbatrading.com, check out Todd's site. You'll definitely want to get involved. Todd, always a pleasure. It's great to have you on, and we'll talk to you again soon. Oh, by the way, if you got a question for Todd, just send me an email, kl@kerrylutz.com. And while you're there, sign up at financialsurvivalnetwork.com for our free newsletter. Todd, a pleasure. We'll talk to you again real soon.
Have a great day. Thank you so much. Always a pleasure.
Thanks for listening to Kerry Lutz's Financial Survival Network, your solution to today's trying times. For the latest, go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Financial Survival Network, now more than ever.